Mr. Eddie Ibrahim.
Thank you for that. This panel is special to me, and I'm so glad that it's a tradition we've started a number of years ago, and one I'm happy that Entertainment Weekly has wanted to continue with us, the Women Who Kick Ass panel. Oh, come on, man. We can admit women kick ass. The Women Who Kick Ass panel. I think it's great because it's true, for one thing, but also it's awesome to see how much diversity and how far we're coming. And I mean, we still have a way to go, but I think we're really moving to that point where men and women have equality in terms of roles and being able to have, not just be supporting casts, but be the lead actresses, the lead actors, and really great. That helps to create so much better content for all of us because every one of us wants to see ourselves reflected in what we watch or read, and I think it's great that that is continuing to grow, and I hope that it continues to happen for everyone here, that you'll get to see yourselves in the entertainment that you love. And so with that, it is my great pleasure to bring out the moderator for the Women Who Kick Ass panel, Sarah Rodman.
Happy Saturday at Comic-Con. How's everybody doing? Good? You're still in it? All right. Well, we want to thank you so much for being here. Even those of you I know that are just waiting this out to get to something else, you know who you are. We're going to entertain and inform you anyway. We do have an amazing panel of women today that I'm super excited that will be talking to us. So, to begin with, she has been nominated for an Academy Award. She has won an Emmy Award. She is the most mesmerizing voice in all of Hollywood. From The Expanse, please welcome Shohreh Aghdashloo. Yay! We went to the mall with her as Robin Scherbatsky. She is avenged with all of our favorites, and she is about to head to Stumptown. Please welcome Cobie Smulders. She has accompanied one of my favorite doctors. She has wowed us on Sense8, and now she is helping people on New Amsterdam, Miss Freema Agyeman. That's right. You get your picture, girl. All right. Next up into the ring, she's glowing, you might say, from her second Emmy nomination for playing Debbie Liberty Bell Egan on the Netflix hit Glow. Please welcome to the stage Miss Betty Gilpin. All right, and we have a surprise for you guys that I'm really excited about. You might know her from Bosch. You might know her from Body of Proof. But there's a B word that I know many of you in here know her from, and that's the Borg. If I said 7 of 9, you'd say Jeri Ryan is here. I'm so excited. Now, I don't know if you've all heard, but Jeri is going to be joining Star Trek Picard. And so we're so excited to have her here. And so while she sits down, we're going to actually start with Jeri.
Oh, hello.
Who doesn't have a placard because she was a surprise.
I'm
so don't be
surprised.
offended. So please tell us every single thing you can tell us about Picard right now, please, and thank you.
There is not much that I'm allowed to say about Picard, unfortunately. I can tell you, as of about 3 hours ago, that Seven is back, and Data is back, and Hugh is back, and let's see, Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis are back, and there's an amazing new cast, and of course, Sir Patrick, who's amazing, and I think we're on the 6th episode now that we're shooting. and it's going really well. And I think you guys are going to love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So too. All right, Shohreh, I want to start with you because you kick so much ass on The Expanse. She's the effing hero of Mother Earth, am I right? And how excited were you when Amazon said, hey, guess what? We're actually going to give your show another shot.
I was so excited, I can't even tell you how much. Because when I heard that the show was cancelled, I thought, okay, life is a journey for me, from chapter to chapter. When one chapter ends, the other one starts. But I was still upset and sad. And when they called me and they told me that Amazon is picking up the show, I could have not believed it. First thing I said was, this show should have been on Amazon from day one. Because when the show talks to the people of the world, when the show is about the people of the world, then it should be shown to the people of the world. Now, my brother in London, my mother in the Middle East, and all my friends elsewhere, we all can watch it together. I don't have to tape it every week and send it to them. That's why I'm so grateful to Amazon.
Sending them VHSs for you?
Absolutely. VHS, absolutely. Because they want to know what happens next.
Well, we're very excited. And since we are here to talk about women kicking ass, I want to start with a question for everybody. Are there people that you remember when you were growing up or starting out in the business that you thought of as role models? Who were the women that you looked at when you were young and you're like, I want to be like her?
Should I start?
Go for it. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So you could just do that and they just scream. It's really fun. So do that, okay? Growing up, when I was little, my older sister was a role model for me. She played soccer and she played basketball, went on to play college ball, went on to play for the Dutch national team. So I always was really inspired by her in terms of just her athletics. And then as I got older, when I was on How I Met Your Mother, we had the director, Pam Fryman, who directed almost every episode of our show, except for maybe 6. And she's always been a huge role model for me.
Freema, how about you?
I went to a very academic convent girls' school, and which was run by nuns, and it was very, very strict. And I didn't get into the arts until much, much later. I was very much a science head, and there was a science teacher there actually, and she was incredibly encouraging and quite harsh. I remember it being quite strict. Oh, that's it. I've been cut off.
The nuns.
I didn't know what you were going to say.
Your time is up. Your time is up.
And I remember just at first misinterpreting that for her being unkind. And then I realized as time went on that she was pushing me, because she could, it was her way of kind of helping me to achieve to achieve my goals. It so transpired that I then moved to the arts. And I remember equally my mother being quite a different force in my life, who was always just incredibly encouraging and very permissive and very free. So a different kind of strength. But she always said, as long as you have a passion for something, I don't care what it is. If you have passion and drive, I will be backing you 110%. So the fact that I turned around then and said, I don't do science anymore when I was going right down that path, my teacher was disappointed, but my mum was like, well, what else do you want to do? Because I'm going to be here for you to back you. So I took that, 2 very different kinds of strength, and hopefully incorporate that into my life.
The moms we like the best, the ones who say, do what you want to do.
Yeah, do you want to do
if you'll be broke. How about you, Betty?
I'm going to copy your answer and say my mom, because my mom is and was an actor when I was growing up and did mostly stage stuff. And, she's like 5 feet, full ginger. And I grew up watching her playing, the crazy maid in a restoration comedy, and always her fullest, clowniest, weirdest self, and playing to the mezzanine and making the biggest, craziest, funnest choices. And I think that really stayed in my brain for later when I think parts of the business tried to seep into my brain and say, the things that are most interesting about you are the Barbie stuff and the stuff with an expiration date on it. And I sort of kept those crazy clown lessons that my mom taught me. It was like, oh, I'm actually a very weird clown person. And I would also say working with Alison Brie on Glow has been a pretty, yes, she's amazing, a pretty transformative experience for me, watching her as a woman on set, just being very brave and vocal and calm and a boss. And as someone who's operated basically 32 years as a human apology and trying to disappear into the wall, seeing someone still be likable and loved, but also calmly taking charge of a situation, it's actually the most caretaking thing that you can do for the people around you. So I feel totally changed by working with that particular woman.
That's a good one. Ms. Ryan?
I'm copycatting. No, my mom was my role model, and she's a ball buster. She takes no guff from anyone. She is a fierce mother bear and the most protective mother you would ever meet for her kids and her grandkids. But an incredibly loving mother, an incredibly nurturing and independent woman. My dad was in the Army. We moved around a lot. My brother and I are 12 months apart.
No.
And he was born with clubbed feet, so he was in 2 casts up to his thigh from birth for the first 2 years of his life. And she was living in Germany for my first year of life with my dad, gone for weeks at a time in an apartment by herself with, a 3rd floor apartment and the laundry in the basement and a baby in casts and a newborn, and she just did it. And she didn't complain, and she kicked ass doing it.
All right, another woman who kicks ass. I like it. And for any of you out there who I love all this mother love so much, I know there are people in the world that maybe mom isn't here anymore, or she is estranged from. Find a woman in your life like that. I have found that, and it's a useful thing to have, even when it's not your biological mom. To have a woman in your life that you can look up to and talk to, like all of these ladies do. Super useful thing to have. And Cobie, you mentioned something that I wanted to touch on. Pam Fryman being a really great example of somebody who's actually been working in the business for a long time.
Yeah.
But we are seeing in the last few years a great influx, perhaps not as big an influx as we would like, of female directors both in film and television. And I think almost all of you have worked with female directors. I know that Freema, there are some on New Amsterdam. And have you been able to discern a difference between working with female directors and male directors? Is there a difference?
Not really. It doesn't make a difference for me.
Sarah Lee, I don't think so.
I don't look at them like they're man or they're women. I look at them like they're my directors. And usually the way I look at my directors is like my parents. My parents are here and they're trying to teach me how to do it right. And no, I've never thought about the difference really. There is no. Is there?
It's hard to say. I'm sitting here thinking about all the directors I've gotten to work with, and it's such a personal relationship.
Yeah.
And I will say in television, having Pam direct as many episodes as she did was such a blessing, because I'm going into a show where now we're going to have a different director each week, and I haven't experienced that before. So I think it's really about the type of relationship that you can form with a director, and hopefully, over the course of a film or over the course of multiple episodes, you can kind of work together in a positive way. I mean, Pam holds a very special place in my heart, so that's a special relationship. But
Right.
I think it really just depends on that relationship with a person, whether it's a man or a woman.
Right, so it's more of a case-by-case basis than
It's
Although, Betty, I would ask you this because so much of the core creative team behind Glow is female. You have female showrunners.
Yeah.
And I actually think New Amsterdam, Kate Dennis, and some other people have directed both of those shows. What has that experience been like, being sort of surrounded by women creatively?
I think there's this pressure now to have... There's this idea that women in charge, that there's only one type of woman who's allowed to be at the top, and that's like a Montessori, all-inclusive, snacks in her purse, like, let's sing a song if we need to sing a song. And that's not every female leader. I think that it's just as if we've only been using the color blue, and it's time for other colors. yeah, I have been being surrounded by women is a very freeing experience. I also think that acting itself is a very silly, strange thing to do, and whatever director is going to help you do that brain trick that things are really happening when there's a boom mic right here and there's, you've just had a snack at craft. Whoever's going to help you do that brain trick the best, man, woman, or tree. The end.
Well, yeah, but you make a good point too. I think that as we make progress in certain areas, whether it's women or minorities or the LGBT community, there is the idea that you are representing this, and so it all has to be one kind of thing,
Right.
Which is sort of the box that we put people in as actors previously, that there was only one kind of thing that you could do. And I look at this group of women and I think how fortunate every single one of you has been to not be typecast, that you have all done comedy, drama, film, television, horror, genre, sci-fi. And I don't know if there's a way to sort of impart to people what the secret to that is. I'm assuming that each one of you, at least at the beginning, were doing roles that maybe you weren't super in love with, but you came to this place now where you can basically do what you want to do. So what's the key to sort of, not demanding isn't the right word, what's the key to getting to the place of being able to do what you want to do?
Put your foot on the ground and say, I want to do this and I don't want to do this. Make your voice heard. And just keep on doing what you think is right, I guess.
I mean, yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, it's true. But I definitely certainly remember in my lifetime of being in this business, going from being told to grow and straighten my hair, to change my name, to, all the things that are going to help me advance in the business. And at that time thinking, well, I'm probably going to do the opposite now, just because you've told me that that's the only way I'm going to get there. And so I can see a massive change. The landscape is changing a lot. Certainly at home, we've got a lot of initiatives in place now in the entertainment industry, Equity, Act for Change, Ofcom, that are putting these things in place to try and get more facets and faces of true life society represented in mainstream television. And the landscape is changing. Things are shifting, the needle is moving. And I think it's not even so much like it's a magnanimous kind of charitable decision from the purse holders. I think it's good business sense if you make sure that all people can see themselves represented, because you're gonna just reach a larger audience and you're gonna make more money. So, it's like, it makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I do think things are changing, and I would actually love your opinion on this, since you have been in the business for some time now. Do you?
43 years.
All right. Not an insignificant amount of time. Have you been able to see that change? Is that something that you have seen an arc of?
Oh my God, of course. Having lived in Iran, in the UK, I got myself educated in the UK, and 30 years in the US. It's unbelievable how everything is changing, how women have finally come to the foreground. And I remember 30 years ago, people kept asking me, how come we don't see more strong female roles on the silver screen? And I kept saying, we need more powerful female, real female artists, politicians in real life. So silver screen can just, reflect their activities. We have thousands of them today, and it's just unbelievable how mothers are pushing their daughters to become somebody. Do not wait to marry so-and-so. You want to be somebody on your own. Prove to the world that you're a human being and not necessarily a female or a male. Genderless, be successful, be yourself, and let the world see through you.
Amen to that. And you've also all been fortunate, almost to a one, to be in shows or about to be on shows where you're the star of the show. You are not there are co-stars, obviously. Each one of you has them, but that you are very important. You're not just a cog in the machine. And that is a place where I actually feel like we are seeing a lot of change, and you play very different people. And so when you turn the TV on, how gratifying is that you know that you're not playing the same role that she is playing,
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's very.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. I think it's. I'll speak personally just about the project I'm starting. Is that you're not coupled with anyone. There's no kind of conversation about will they or won't they. You know, it's not about a relationship. It's about a woman moving in the world and sort of being her own boss, which is something I don't think I've ever done before. I feel like I've always been coupled with partners, which has been amazing. But this is an opportunity to explore a woman sort of out for herself.
And Freema, it's interesting on your show. I feel like there are people that actually want you to get together with Ryan's character, but you're married.
I'm sitting there thinking,
Why do
I'm
people
in a
want
will
that?
they, won't they situation. But while she's being, head of oncology and hematology and doing her thing, but I kind of, it's that thing as well where I feel like when we talk about diversity and equality, I have a slight twinge with both of those, because for me, like, diversity sounds like you're straying from a normality, which is like, it isn't that for me. It shouldn't be, here's something a little bit different, a little bit extra from the normal. Similarly, equality, which is obviously what we're all seeking, there's something about now saying, well, all women, should represent this kind of woman, or people, are to be treated the same. I think there's also something to be said for acknowledging difference. And I think that, if we start saying we are all exactly equal and exactly the same, then you're not celebrating, and then we're going to start losing the things that do differentiate us and do make us individual and do make us special. So we kind of have to be aware of that's going on at the same time. So it's a real dichotomy that's happening, and it is fascinating. We're all learning, and I feel like as long as we're open. I mean, my sister works for a regulator at home in the UK, and they were trying to run a focus group to bring people from all different backgrounds to talk about the industry and to talk about, entertainment and how you feel, you're reflected. And they did it at a time, they did it at Ramadan, and it was Eid, and they were like, worrying about not getting a Muslim contingency come in and not even understanding why. And it was like, well, it's a very important festival at this time. You're not going to get them to come right now, so you need to be aware of things that are important to individuals while trying to be inclusive.
Right, exactly. It is such a weird time right now for both of those things. I cannot be the only person who loathes when a character is referred to as diverse, as if a person is diverse. But that's just one of those things that's happening. But you make a good point about conversation, and I think that we're all thinking about this right now. Having a panel like this, talking about diversity, it's like, where's the line between, if we keep talking about it, it won't go away, but we have to talk about it in order for people to understand.
Yeah.
So when these topics come up for you, there's no easy way to approach these subjects. Like, equality is important, but diversity not of people, but of thought and ideas and characters is also important. So how do you have the conversation? I mean, because you must get asked these questions, because we've all heard, and how tired are we, the strong female character, as if there had never been them before, or that we don't need weak female characters too. We need characters that are across the spectrum. So when you start having these conversations, what is it possible to say? What's the important things that you want to see happen for women, for people of color in the industry? What are the things that you want to happen? That's a big question. I'm sorry. Jeri, let's start with you.
Thanks so much. Well, I'm a mom. So first and foremost, for me, before I have ever taken a job, it's been, what's the effect going to be on my kids? Because I have a son who's 24, and I have a daughter who's 11. And it was one thing when, it was just my son. But when I had my daughter, it became a lot more urgent, I think, in my mind, that the characters I play were, again, strong female characters. They were a positive representation of what a woman can be. Not that, like we said, not that every woman is the same, not that there shouldn't be, you know, the weaker victim kind of characters, not that we don't need to see everything, because we do, but for me, what I wanted to portray on screen, even if it's not necessarily a show that I want my daughter watching right now, someday she will. And I want, and not just for my daughter, because once you're a mom, you're kind of everyone's mom. You become mother to the world, or at least I do. And so I want all of these girls that are growing up now, I want them to see every possibility. I want them to know that everything is a possibility for them. I want them to know, you want to be president? You could be president. Guess what? You know, you want to be an astronaut? Do it. Go to the moon. Go to Mars. Go anywhere. You guys could do this. And they need to see this represented, because if they don't see this represented, then they don't see it as a reality, because it's not. Doors are opening more in real life, but they're not open all the way. They're opening. So conversations can be had about things, but they're not necessarily seeing all of these things represented in the
And that's a
news,
much
for
better
example.
way to frame the question for the rest of you, so thank you. When you are choosing to, when you're going through the roles that are being offered to you, what are those decisions? Are those part of the decision-making process, like Jeri is talking about why you want to do this in terms of what the character is putting out in the world?
Yeah, well, I agree with Freema. I think that there is a gray area that we have to represent too. I think with everything going on in the world right now, and with strong female roles, you know, I sometimes go, okay, me, Betty, maybe I don't have the personality type for the revolution. I'm not strong and organized. My purse is full of trash, and I forgot my passport on the way here, you know. So I'm like, oh, is there no place for someone who maybe doesn't have a million organized sentences and shoulders back and walking into rooms being like, this is what I demand? You know, I think that there's room in the femme revolution for everybody, and I think that bravery is pretty contagious, and I think that seeing other types of women represented, and also women like me who, you know, maybe their brain record isn't so perfectly clean on self-doubt. You know, I also think that something is happening with women on television, especially, where everyone's sort of releasing their inner Kraken. Like, I watch Killing Eve and Fleabag, and, you know, these shows where I think for so long, female roles really were around, you know, the journey of brunch. And right now, I think that, you know, it's been this illusion and lie that when we're zoning out, looking out the window, we're thinking of things like brunch. And I'm thinking of things like throwing a watermelon through a window or driving a van into a river. And I think that people are starting to write for that now.
Yep.
And so I think that the thing that can join us all is releasing the inner Kraken.
Yes.
Like
girl.
it.
Come along way.
Freema and Cobie and Shohreh,
Sure.
thoughts on how you are choosing things with that?
I'm usually thinking about brunch.
Okay.
I'm
That's
typically
okay. That's your
always
truth.
thinking
That's your
about
truth.
brunch.
What an amazing character.
But it's okay. We should be able to be also, that's the whole
Yeah.
point. Some of us can think about brunch,
yeah,
and some
yeah.
of us can throw men in lakes.
Yes,
We
right.
should be able to do it all.
Well,
And women, let's
well-
throw women in lakes too.
Yeah.
You know, while we're sitting here and we're on this panel of like strong women, it's I guess it's, when I choose a role, it's a two-part thing, you know. I like to, as an artist, challenge myself and try to take on different roles just so I can grow as a performer. And then the second part of it is certainly how can you give back to the world? And, you know, it's a you know, being an actor is kind of a very selfish choice. You know, it's a very selfish thing. And I talk to people and they say, well, I just want to make people laugh. I've always just wanted to make people laugh. And I can't kind of get on board with that, but what I can get excited about is being a part of a project that normalizes something that maybe people haven't seen before, a dynamic group of friends, a different sexuality, all these things that TV and film are such pop culture influencers. Like they create sort of how people perceive the world around them in a lot of places that aren't in major cities. So when you have the opportunity to pop into somebody's living room and you see on television yourself sort of represented in a way, or you felt the same thing that character feels, that's exciting to me, because you can hopefully invoke change for the better or relate to somebody who can't relate to anyone in their own world. So that's exciting to me. But it's also the definition of strong. Like, listen, you know, I've done Marvel movies and there's superheroes and you fight people and like that could be seen as strong. But when you get to portray a woman who's dealing with an addiction who, you know, on the page is very weak and very messed up, but is, you know, putting one foot in front of the other and getting through each day, that has a strength to me. So it's really about, you know, finding that representation of what that strong woman is doing, even if you're playing a character who's a mess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where we find our strength, getting through the mess. Shohreh, I want to ask about your character specifically because there is no doubt that she is a strong female character. And I wonder if you have seen that there are these memes and quotes and videos and mashups of all the badass stuff that you get to say on the show.
Yes.
What is your response to that? Do people come up to you and quote the lines to you?
They ask me to curse and cuss. They say, can you say this? And I'm like, no, I cannot say this because there are kids around. So it's better if I don't say anything. But when I left Iran at the time of the revolution, I turned myself into an actress with a mission. I'm a storyteller, but first I need to love the story, and then regardless of my role in it, I have to like the story first. Recently, when I got back from the Expanse, 6 months in cold, minus 35, doing exterior shots, I was ever so tired. But then I received this script called Run, Sweetheart, Run, produced by the Blumhouse. And at first, I told my agent, I said, I'm really tired and I don't feel like working. And he said, but it's right up your alley. Read it. I read it and I felt obliged. I thought, I'm obligated to do this. I have to do this, regardless of me being tired. So it's just satisfying when you see that what the story you tell or what you do, whether you like it or not, we are role models. Young girls, women, men, they look at us and see what we're doing. So it's so satisfying when we do something that is meaningful. That is, I for one, I'm so grateful to the Amazon for the fact that now that the show is being shown to the world, all the girls in the Middle East, when they see me, they think, if she did it, we can do it too.
Right,
So
amen.
there is hope. There is hope.
There's definitely hope.
Yeah.
I want to change tacks just a little bit because all of you up here have done in either small parts or in very large parts. You've all done genre stuff, sci-fi, fantasy, horror. And what is it about those things, since we are here at the home of those things, that you love about doing genre stuff specifically?
Imagination, imagination, imagination. That's what all actors love, and that's all you need at your disposal.
There has never been a stronger reception by the fans coming in here. Like, it is so wonderful. I think this is maybe my third time in Hall H, and there's so many of you, and it's such a wonderful thing to be able to come and talk and to see all the costumes and to see the art, the fan art that gets drawn, and the creation that comes from these projects. And it's truly inspiring. And it also, it's cyclic because, you know, you start this project and then you see how you guys bring it to life even more, and then you really want to give back and make sure these projects are really good and that they can be better. And it's just, it's a really wonderful sort of relationship that I haven't experienced doing any other movies. Like all the Marvel stuff has been so cool because you get to really have this relationship. It's really wonderful.
Freema, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. All of that. I think in the sci-fi fantasy world, when, you know, you're out there meeting different species, the difference between us as the human race is diminished. So it's a very inclusive community. It's a very warm, welcoming world, actually. And you do feel that, and it's even beyond when you go on to do other roles, certainly in my experience, that fan base is, you know, it's so loyal and people are interested to support you throughout, you know, in continuing your career. So it's, but obviously you don't know any of that when you're first going into it. I certainly didn't know any of that. And I think similarly, when it comes to roles as well that we pick, I think the later on you get in your career, the more your past experiences obviously inform you, but then the danger can also be that you start looking at the big picture before you've even looked at the characterization in depth, and you start looking at the macro and the marketing and how am I going to connect with people, how am I going to make this speak, but then, you know, I think I've certainly tweaked that a little bit and have started to just reconnect with the role, make sure it's saying something to you and you can say that, translate that authentically, and then it resonates out, I think, if you're doing it genuinely, and then you know you kind of end up with something that you're proud of and that people are pleased with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ladies, Jeri, have you seen anybody cosplaying, by the way? You must have over the years.
Have I seen any cosplay?
You're like, girl.
What do you guys think? You think I've seen any? Might have seen a few.
Yeah, just a
might
couple.
have seen a few. No, listen, come on. I'm in the world of Star Trek. That is the most loyal, passionate fan base. God bless you guys. Seriously. They're, you know, I mean, all the fandoms are great. I love all the fandoms, but come on. I mean, the Star Trek fans, you guys rock. But no, sci-fi is great because it's fantasy. I mean, it's anything goes. You're not like stuck to the, you know, physics. Physics doesn't matter. You can make whatever happen that needs to happen. So you're not anchored to the world of human reality.
Yeah.
So you can play anything. I played a character that started out human and became a machine and then had to learn how to be human again. And it's a whole different opportunity to connect with fans and to show different sections of society a representation of themselves. Personally, with 7 of 9, I heard from so many people who are on the autism spectrum that they appreciated seeing a character that had the same struggles that they did. Because she didn't have social skills. She didn't know, you know, personal space boundaries. She didn't understand social norms. She had to learn all of that. And that's very much the same kind of experience that a lot of those people have. And I know this because my son is on the spectrum. And that was so meaningful to me when these fans reach out and say, thank you for showing me on screen, for letting me see that it's not just me and I'm not alone and I'm not the oddball, that I can see that represented, and it gives me hope, and it makes me feel not so alone, and I love that.
It's great, and layers too. That's something that genre is so good at. The Expanse is so good at. Star Trek is so good at. That on the surface that we think that these are these fantastical stories, but they have so much to say to us about what's happening in our world right now and the way that we're interacting with each other. And certainly on your show, even though it is literally out there, there are things from the show that I'm sure you must.
It's so timely and
the world.
relevant. Sometimes I feel like I wish it was a daily show. So we could tape it in the morning and show it to the audience in the afternoon, and they would see how relevant and how timely this show is in regards with politics, geopolitical situation in the world. It's unbelievable. And some stuff that the show has suggested in the 2nd and 3rd season is now happening. And I look at the news and I'm like, this is not news to me. I knew this last year.
Because it's already happening in the
It's
future.
already happening, yeah.
But speaking of cosplay, I always like to ask this. Have any of you ever done it? And if you were going to do it, who would you dress up as? Totally frivolous question, but I'm super into it.
Oh.
Random Ravenclaw student from Harry Potter.
I like it.
Ravenclaw!
Points for Ravenclaw. So if you were going to dress up as somebody.
From any, yeah.
Freema, I feel like you
Yeah,
have
well,
an
I
answer.
have, yeah. My sister was still is, but Star Trek was a massive part of our household, and so we went to conventions, and she went as a Bajoran, and with our little putty on our nose. And we didn't have we couldn't do it properly. We just went to fancy dress shop and got some fabric and tried to just put stuff together. But it struck me then, before I was even thinking about getting in the business, just how much it felt like a big community then. We would go to these events and hang out, and it was fascinating. It makes me feel a real warmth.
Cobie, is there a character you've always died?
Do you hear my brain going like this?
It's like there's got to be somebody.
Well, there for sure is. I think the thing that always impresses me are the homemade costumes.
Yeah.
That always gets me so excited because it's so creative. Okay, Poison Ivy would be really fun.
Good one.
Or Xena Warrior Princess would also be very fun. That'd be fun. Yeah,
That's nice.
I like it, Betty.
old school.
Oh gosh. Well, I often get mistaken for Jodie Comer on Killing Eve. So maybe I would just cosplay as her, but not have to. I'm not good with arts and crafts, so I would just get dressed.
But she's got fantastic fashion.
Yeah,
so
it's
yeah,
got it going
she's got a
out.
great wardrobe.
Shohreh, is there a character that you've always loved?
Jeri, the queen of Star Trek.
Mutual.
And you would look fabulous.
Absolutely. So it's Betty's first Comic-Con. So if there are any Liberty Bells out there, please make yourself known.
Just pretend.
because
Just one person
We
pretend.
need that, but if you've seen them, direct
see
them
it.
towards her because we know there are Liberty Bells out there. So for each one of you, you are all going into something new or going back to something that you have loved previously. You are coming back on The Expanse in December, yes?
Yes.
Stumptown is on when, Miss Smulders?
September on ABC.
Tell the people about what Stumptown is about.
Okay. I just turned into my broadcaster voice. Did you hear? This is an advertisement. This is the advertisement portion of the panel. Yeah, I'm on a new show. It's called Stumptown. It's based off of a graphic novel written by Greg Rucka, which some of you might. Yeah, we can clap for him. He's amazing. And I play a private investigator in Portland, Oregon. And she's, Portland, all right. She's ex-military. She is a sex addict. She is a gambling addict. She is a drinker. But she's also a very good person, very, very honorable, and we'll follow the show. We'll do cases, but it will be mostly character-driven and a lot of fun. We're calling it like an action dramedy. Shows now are like, you can't categorize them, and you can't categorize our show, so it's a little bit of everything, and it should be super fun.
Yes, I believe that the very attractive Michael Ealy is on the
Yes,
show.
he is.
So
Yes, he
another
is.
reason to tune in. Freema,
He
we
is an
need to
attractive
know
man.
what happened. Can you tell us anything? There was a big crash.
There was a crash. Yeah, what can I tell you? I was
You're here, so I feel like that's a good sign.
Yeah, but I'm also, it's a sci-fi con, so it could be a big twist, maybe, maybe it isn't what you think. Maybe things aren't what they seem.
All right.
I don't know, I can't, I'm not going to be able to say anything.
Did the best I could.
I was shocked when I read that too. I actually thought that the show was going to move at a slower pace than it actually does. I thought, because I hadn't done network television before and 22 episodes of network, I was like, oh, this is obviously going to have a different pace to doing 8 episodes on Netflix or whatever. And I was blown away pleasantly. surprised that the creators aren't afraid to move the story forward and move at a momentum. And so, yeah, that crash at the end is certainly going to change the landscape a little bit in season 2.
All right. So Glow returns August 9th, but Betty is also here because she is going to be in The Hunt. And I don't know if you've seen the trailer for The Hunt yet, but it is legitimately upsetting.
The trailer-
Tell people what The Hunt is about.
Okay, the trailer comes out July 29th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, and it's
the teaser that everyone's seen.
oh yeah, the official trailer comes out July 29th, and I'm gonna get like a neck dart from Blumhouse if I say anything too spoilery. So I think what I'm allowed to say is that it's about 12 strangers who wake up in a clearing with gags in their mouths and don't know how they got there, and it quickly becomes apparent that they are being hunted. Yes.
And that is what she can say. And you've already told us that you can tell us nothing. Is there anything else about Picard that you can tell us in terms of when it is coming?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I was like, I don't.
I'm told early 2020.
All right.
Now, what that means exactly, I don't know, but sometime in the first half of the year 2020.
All right, excellent. So we're going to have a little bit of time for audience questions so you guys can start lining up. And while you're doing that, you mentioned Fleabag, and we were talking earlier about there are so many great female characters on right now. What are the things that you guys are watching that you are sort of sharing with others? I'm not sure if has everyone seen Fleabag? Has everybody seen Fleabag?
It's so funny. I literally watched 5 episodes this morning. I was in my bed just like this watching Fleabag. It's so good. It's so good.
All right.
That's
What else
I'm
is
watching.
everybody else watching? Because we all need binge recommendations all the time.
The Bachelorette. I'm sorry.
Ah.
Sorry.
All right. She's having brunch or watching The Bachelorette. No shame.
I'm sorry.
Do we
Obsessed with the
do,
Crown.
ladies?
I love The Crown.
Yes.
The Crown.
Love
All right,
The
which is
Crown.
coming back soon. Very
Oh,
good.
can't
Freema,
wait.
what are you watching?
Oh, I'm not. Do you know I haven't watched anything? I haven't tuned into anything at the moment. But when we just finished the show, I went around and asked people for their top 3 suggestions, so that as soon as we hit hiatus, I could sit down and start watching stuff. Because I was like, let me see, and certain things just kept coming up. So they're the ones I'm going to hit. Ozark was
all
on
right.
there. Fleabag, people were talking about, and
I feel like as a British person, you haven't seen Fleabag yet? What's happening?
I haven't. I have a list. I have a list. As you were saying earlier about different types of women that get. Yeah, I'm a bit of a procrastinator and a non-able to multitasker. So despite what people,
All right, and Shohreh, what are you watching?
My Brilliant Friend from Italy. It's one of the best series I've ever seen.
All right, good to know. All right, do we have some? I see you over there. And taking a page from Kristen Bell's book, a question starts with who, how, why, what, when, or where. Go right ahead.
Well, my question is, how does it feel to be a role model, and how difficult is it to be one?
It's not easy. It's not easy. It's hard. When you know that people are looking up to you, then there are certain things that you try not to do, or try to do things that would be would be educational. So it's not an easy path to take, but it's very satisfying.
It's a little weird that the version of myself that sits in this hall is the porn poodliest version of myself and not what I look like in real life. So that when I see people on the subway, people are like, that looks like a methier version of that porn poodle person. So that is super weird that, professionals
Porn
made
poodly.
me
I
this
like
way.
porn
And
poodly.
yeah,
Good description.
this is a porn poodle illusion and not me.
Anybody want to follow Porn Poodle on being a role model?
I'm going to add on to Corn Poodle by saying, I think in Betty's case, that's maybe what makes her a very good role model, is somebody who is grounded and down to earth and can laugh at yourself and can, not take yourself too seriously.
Right.
I think that's a big part of it.
Thanks,
Exactly.
Cobie.
Good answer. All right, who is next? Yes, madame.
Hi. So my question goes to everybody out there. As a female role model, what is your advice to women of different body sizes dealing with body image issues, especially with seeing this ideal of thinness in social media?
Love thyself.
Good question.
Yeah.
Love yourself, no matter who you are, where you are. Just celebrate who you are. Celebrate the fact that you're still alive. And this is what I have to keep telling my husband every morning. He's a Gemini, and he's not a good morning person. So he goes, what's the green for? Why are you smiling? And I'm like, wait a second. Nothing is broken. I am healthy, and I have a job. And what else do I need to be happy about? Celebrate who you are, get to know who you are, and love thyself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah, can I add on to that?
Please
Okay. Yeah, I will say that's a very smart way to approach it. You know, I've gone through really terrible health moments in my own life. And I've been in moments where I realize, oh my God, I've taken my body for granted. I have totally taken my body for granted for so long. And I've gone through horrible health things. And then I remember I broke my leg 3 years ago. And I was on crutches for 8 weeks. And I remember thinking, all I want to do is I want to walk across the room. I want to grab that glass of water and just walk back. That's all I want. And I will never take walking for granted again. And I think if you can somehow connect to that in some way, I know it's challenging. I know it's especially challenging for women. But if you can connect to that and go like, this is the only life that you have, you guys. Like, that's it. So if you can connect to that in a way where you go, this is my body, this is what's getting me from day to day. You need to respect it, you need to appreciate it, and just lay off on the judgment. I think you'll be a much happier person.
Amen to that. Go ahead, Freema.
If I could add to that as well, I mean, we all absolutely do suffer from insecurities. No one is immune from that. And I remember when I was doing Sense 8, and honestly, I love it. But I remember at the time when I got the script, the amount of nudity, I was terrified. And I just remember saying to my mum, I don't think I can do it. And she said, why? Why? And I said, there's this and this, and I can't. And she was like, anyway, being a wonderful mum, we pep talked, off I went, and I still had that thing where I was like, I'm on set, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I still don't feel confident, and everyone's saying, you know, you should, and you could, and you're like, that doesn't really help. And I remember speaking to Lana Wachowski, who never forced anybody to do anything. She just told me a story, and she said there was this documentary she saw once, and it had a two-way mirror, and people would stand in front of the mirror and talk about what they saw. And on the other side of the mirror, there would be 3 people sat there talking about what they saw. And 9 times out of 10, the people in front of the mirror would go, don't like my hips, don't like my stomach, my arms are too flabby. And on the other side, they were saying, gosh, look at how her eyes light up when she smiles and laughs. Look at the way that she sort of does that little cheeky thing. It was about the way you come across and your energy and it was always about mannerism. It was never about the way that person looked, hardly. So if we can just somehow get out of our own head, sometimes we get so stuck in ourselves. And it's not that you need anybody. I'm not saying somebody else needs to validate you, but maybe we need to surround ourselves more with people who are celebratory about us and who we are, and then we can share that with ourselves.
Yeah.
Amen. That's beautiful. All right. Anybody else? I don't want to cut anybody off. All right. Who is next? That is a fantastic outfit.
Hello, sailor.
Very nice.
Looking good.
Sorry again. So my question actually goes to Betty Gilpin. I want to know, internally as a woman, on something that was quoted on your IMDb page.
Oh, God.
Where it says, my brain is a room full of women who take turns at the wheel.
Uh-huh.
And I would just like to ask, what does that mean to you and in any internal revelation as a woman?
Yeah, that's often how I approach a character, is to figure out what brain women are in her head and when each one of them are driving. And oftentimes it is to just distract me from the boom mic or the fact that there's a result or a comment section that's going to rip me apart no matter what. I'm like, okay, I need to sort of Trojan horse a nice imaginative sort of soul circus bubble experience for myself, because putting something out into the world can be very scary, and when you think about it too much, all these checkpoints appear in your brain of, is that choice too big? Is that, are you doing something weird with your face? Is that the right answer? Maybe just play it safe. And so when I think about all the women in my brain, like for me, I think about Medea and a little weird 7-year-old with chocolate on her face, and a homeless witch. And 100 other people who, depending on how much coffee I've had that day, are driving. And that to me is more like what it feels like to be alive as a woman or just as a person than a lot of the, vocal fry Voldemort people that I auditioned to play for most of my career. So yeah, that's what I think about when I think about that.
Vocal fry Voldemort. I don't know. Gilpin's got phrases. I like it. But you mentioned comments, and I'm interested. It is a new world order now. All of you have been doing this long enough to have seen the change that we have made, from maybe meeting people here in person at Comic-Con and signing autographs to having this instant interaction with people, either on your social media accounts or in comment sections. Do you have a sort of protocol that you use to approach that kind of interaction with people? Some people don't look at it at all. How much do you engage with that?
Are you talking about comments?
Yeah, comments on maybe your Instagram or Twitter or about the shows or movies that you're in. Because everybody has an opinion, which they have a right to, but everybody's sharing it, and maybe it's not something you want to hear necessarily.
That is true.
I mean,
I just try to be as positive as possible at all times. I'm not digging online trying to find stuff, but I try to, anything I put out, I try to make it positive, and I hope that continues on in the world. I think that people who get really negative, it's because they're unhappy, and I don't indulge that. So yeah, I just try to put goodness out there and hope it comes back or changes somebody's opinion. Good in the world.
also, what's great is if you have a brilliant fan base, someone will say something trash to you, and everyone else will jump on them on your feed. You're like,
That is
They'll protect
thanks, team. They'll protect me.
They'll have your back. Which actually, can you guys share any good advice that you have gotten over the years, either from just a person in your life, from a famous person, somebody that's worked, and it could be very simple advice about hydrating or very specific advice about acting. Have you come across anybody that was like, here's a piece of advice, and it's actually stuck with you?
I think in terms of absorbing opinions, I've tried to get good at it. I'm certainly not a master at it yet, but to only absorb opinions from people that you really respect and love. So even if it's a positive thing, even if someone was like, "You're so great," or this, that way, watch the thing and it was so great, I file it, and I put it away, and I don't even. I'm able to not absorb it as much. But if I go to somebody who I really like and I really respect, if they tell me something, I will take that in. But I know how to delegate.
Right, to collate what's important and what isn't.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because if you absorb the good, then you take on the bad. So if you can't be like, these comments don't apply to me, only if they say something really lovely. You're absolutely right. It's like you take all of it with a pinch of salt. I think the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Absolutely. All right. I think we have time for one more audience question.
No
so make
pressure,
it awesome.
bro.
Make it
no
awesome.
pressure.
That's you.
All right. First, I just wanted to say to Jeri, as somebody that has Asperger's syndrome, I appreciate not only you playing that character with relevance to the community, but also you showing appreciation of what that means to people. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I'll be quick with my question. I'll just ask one word because it's originally a longer question. But too often, female characters in TV and movie are underdeveloped. They're strong and they kick ass, but that's all that they get to do. So, in one word, what does a fully rounded woman that kicks ass look like to you, and what's that look like? How can we give more nuance and dimensionality to these women that kick ass, but that's not all they are?
So nuance and dimensionality.
very
One
good.
word.
One word.
One word.
I have a word.
All right.
I don't know if it's the right one, but I think being resilient is a huge part of that. Is about, yeah, you could kick someone's ass, but then you got to get back up again after the fight and continue on. Yeah.
Step by step, ferociously. Ferociously is the word.
Ferociously. All right, that is also good. Anybody else want to share a word before we go?
Is three-dimensional one word? It's hyphenated?
Hyphenated.
I would say, if the line is, it seems like it's just to be played squinty 1,000-yard starey, like, we gotta go. It's our job to be like, we gotta go.
All right, and on that note, the wrap light is flashing. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. Have a great Comic-Con.
Thank you.